Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Inspired Riding interview series. I am so glad you guys are here. Thank you for joining us. I'm pleased to introduce you to Jane Guzman. Is that how you say it?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, that's
excellent. And she is a BHS chief examiner. She is a dressage judge and competitor, and she has the business horsemanship clinician. So thank you so much for being here, Jane. And is there anything else you want to add about your background before we begin the questions?
I don't think so. These were qualifications from the past. The main thing now is this concept of being at one with your horse. So that's why we did the horsemanship as opposed to horsemanship. So
I
it's
love
horse,
that.
yeah. So
That's beautiful. I love that shift. So I'm going to start with a really fun, easy question. If you were handed $10 million, what would be the first thing you would do?
I know. I think I'd celebrate with a glass of wine.
Nice. As you should.
Besides personal things, I think one of the things in the horse industry that's really hard is for riders, amateur riders, professional riders, or trainers to have access to good training. So I'd like to have invested money in training programs for instructors, right down to pony club instructors, and also to our recreational riders, that clinics and things were not as expensive as they all are in this country. And if I had money left over, I would get a Pixum camera for all my clients that they can all send in, the videos down, because it's such a great teaching tool.
It
But
really is.
it's an expensive tool for people.
It's very handy. And actually, that reminds me, there's a new camera out that I'm going to be testing. I'll let you know about it. And it's like a third of the price. So I'll keep you posted on that. My husband just showed it to me yesterday, but I love all these things you would do. That is so beautiful. And it's so important.
Yeah. It's just the whole concept of training is something that you never, ever, ever stop training. You never, ever, ever stop learning. And I think if I ever got to that stage, I would give up. I just love the whole learning concept, the whole progression with each individual horse.
I agree. It's so good to be an insatiable learner, especially in this sport.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a sport. Riding is a very hard sport, because you've got to be mentally and physically in the right mindset, and then you've got to understand the horse as well. So it's not an easy sport, not at all.
But it's certainly rewarding when it feels like everything clicks in. Yeah. That's what keeps bringing us back.
Yeah, you get that one moment, one good transition, one good something, and you're on cloud nine for the rest of the day or the rest of the week. Yeah, it's fabulous.
Exactly. It's like that saying my sister actually once told me, is when you have those moments, try to keep them going as long as you can throughout your day, even when you're off the horse. Like, keep riding the horse in your mind so you keep that feeling going as long as you can.
Yeah, yeah. And it transfers to everything else in life. You know, that assurance and confidence and just appreciation of others. It makes our day much better.
Absolutely. I'd love to hear about how you started riding and what that experience was like for you.
Well, the short story is I was a little girl crazy about ponies. My mother and father got me 12 lessons in a local rider school. And at the end of 12 lessons, they said we could join a class. And my parents thought, why don't we just get them ponies? So my two brothers and I got 3 ponies, purebred Connemara, purebred Welsh Mountain, and a purebred Welsh Ridden. However, they were only 4-year-old, 3-year-old, and 18 months.
Oh my goodness.
Because the seller told my parents that a well-bred pony had good manners.
Oh my gosh.
We had a lot of monitoring. You can't ride until you don't fall off doing X or Y. So after the 12 lessons, until I joined Pony Club, there was a lot of learning with our well-mannered ponies.
I'll bet.
That was the start of it. But
Wow.
I loved it from day one. That day one, I loved it. So
Yeah, you were bitten by the bug for sure.
absolutely. And ponies weren't expensive. A good pony was £100.
Oh wow. Okay.
So it was a different era.
Yeah.
And in Scotland, it's not as elitist the sport as it is here in the US. So it was easier to have access. So
Do you miss being back there?
I do. My family's all there, and after COVID, I didn't go for a couple of years, but I was there at Christmas, which was lovely, and then going back again in July or August. So I usually go twice a year.
That's lovely.
Yeah,
It's good to keep that connection. Yeah.
keep my accent going.
Yes, it's one of my favorites. It's just you could talk about anything to me, and I'd be so happy.
Funny, yeah. Anyway,
So I'm wondering if your perspective on riding has shifted throughout your life with horses.
oh, definitely. I think that a person whose perspective doesn't shift isn't actually continuously learning. So when we're young, we think we're invincible and our goal is to perhaps go to a competition or do this tremendous ride or do this tremendous thing. But as we get older, it's more about how we connect with that specific horse, what that specific horse is saying. So as we learn more of the horse language, our perspective on the whole game, you want to call it a game, changes. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, it's so true. And the more you learn, it's like new levels open up.
Yeah. And you think you know something, and then 6 months later, you go, oh. But 6 months later, you go, oh. So really, for me, the whole teaching thing is almost like it's opens up and opens up. And it's all basic stuff, but you understand that basics just on a little bit deeper level all the time, like contact or your position or your aids. The very basic things become more and more subtle as you get older. And I think that's also why in the sport of riding, men and women compete against each other. 30-year-olds compete against 60-year-olds. So it's not our age, it's our horse age, it's our mental understanding of what we're trying to do that develops over years and years and years. Yeah.
That's a great point. I always like to say we're ageless at the barn, you know?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Or I sometimes say to people, they have a horse rider age, you know, maybe being a child, I just want to gallop, I just want to canter, I just want to jump, I just want to. And then as you mature, it's, I really just want 4 steps of self-carriage.
Yes. And
So
feel that your horse really enjoys that movement.
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely, yeah. Because even the competition horse, if it's not showing that joy and self-carriage, the marks aren't as good. It can be obedient, but it's flat, it's just there. But if you can get that harmony with the horse, that's where the real marks come in as well.
That's where the sparkles come in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
I love it. Well, speaking of sparkles, if you had a magic wand, what would you change in the horse world?
I think the main thing that I would change is accessibility. You know, when you go to a competition, I can tell you a very short story. Is when I was competing internationally with one of my horses, I took him over to Ireland, which is where all the hunters are, and he won, which was amazing. Right. The following year, we went back with him, and when we were in the hotel, the car was stolen, and the car had my clothes, my saddle, my bride, everything in it. So my husband and a groom went to the showground to get the horse ready while I went with the police. Every other competitor said, I can give your wife a pair of breeches. I have a jacket she can wear.
Oh,
So
wow.
they're giving stuff to somebody who's going to beat them. And he did win again, but everybody is so on your side. And I think the main thing that I would like is that we support each other more.
Yes.
Because it doesn't matter if you're first or second or third, it's how you did with you're competing against yourself. So I think we need to all just, encourage each other.
Absolutely. I love that. It actually reminds me, I went to a show once, and when I opened the tack room door, I pulled the saddle out and realized I forgot to put the stirrups on.
Oh, no.
And a really sweet woman next to me in the trailer next to me offered me a set of hers. And I was like, I thought that was the sweetest thing ever. So
yeah. We need to support each other,
Yes.
And I think it benefits all of us if we could all be like that.
Definitely. I'm all about encouraging kindness for yourself and for your horse,
Yeah. Definitely. Realizing that it doesn't matter what discipline you're doing, it's about you and your horse. It's like when you I was told when I was very young, don't think about your qualification because they don't matter. When you put your foot in the stirrup, your horse has no idea what piece of paper you hold. It's what you do right there in that moment. And I think that's what people need to understand.
That's such a beautiful point. Yep. They just want you to be there with them and know how to offer them support in the moment.
Yeah. And keep them safe because basically they're prey animals. But they also have a hierarchy. So a lot of people will take a horse and think of it as a dog, but a horse is not a dog. A horse is, so he needs you to be a leader. And if you look at them in the field, they don't follow the bully horse because that's not the horse that makes them feel safe. They follow the horse that will keep them secure. So you need to be a leader, but a leader that they're willing to follow. And that can be quite difficult.
Yeah, I found it, I explain it to my clients as having kind assertiveness, like be super clear about what you want, but it doesn't have to be mean.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
If you're consistent and when you hit a problem, you analyze it from stop, what am I doing wrong? What do I need to change about my ride? Did I confuse the horse by doing X or Y? And if you break it down intellectually, you can then come up with a solution.
I so agree. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'd love to move on to some of the questions that came from my Inspired Riders group. So
Absolutely.
Thank you. So Sunshine wanted to know, how do you recognize when you should try a different bit or when you just need to spend more time training or working with the one that you have?
That's a really, really good question because there's two sides to that question. And the first is, does the bit fit the horse? Right. And everybody knows to look on the outside and see, are there two wrinkles on the side of the horse's mouth? Okay, it fits perfectly. it's like going into a shop and buying a pair of trainers. So whatever size you are, say we were the same foot size, but it doesn't mean our instep is the same, or our toes might be longer or shorter, or our heel might be different, or whatever. So when we look at the horse and the bit, we need to look inside the horse's mouth. And the things to look at inside the mouth are, how thick is the tongue? Because an Arab horse generally has a thicker tongue than other horses because they stored water in their tongue in the desert. Now, there's a piece of useless information.
I had no idea. That's so cool.
So, how thick is the tongue? How thick are the gums? How thick are the lips? Is there any scar tissue on the inside of the lips from, poor bitting in the past? How low is the palate? And so when we look at the horse's mouth, so many people look on the outside, but they don't look on the inside. And then when you look at a bit, there's so many articles and they'll say the loose ring snaffle is more flexible and is therefore better for horses. But some horses don't like a loose ring. Some horses are better in an egg butt, or perhaps would need a cheek snaffle. So rather than rush out and buying another bit and another bit and another bit and never really getting there, first they check that the horse is comfortable with the bit. And when you put your bridle on, if the horse is chewing on the bit and mouthing on the bit, something's wrong. Change that bit, right? And then from the riding point of view, you can't then go, well, he's not right on the contact, I need a stronger bit. So that would be the time that when he's comfortable with the bit in his mouth, right, and he has room, but it's not too thick a bit that he's uncomfortable, go for a trail ride the first day in a new bit. Don't just go into the arena and start running around in circles and saying, well, he's still not good on the contact. Just go for a trail ride. Let him get used to carrying the bit. Then gently ask him to bend left and bend right. Is that working? And then see if you can do a stop or a transition of some kind. Let the transition be progressive. Let the transition be on the arc of the circle. And if the horse roots against the bit, abort the transition.
Okay.
Don't keep going, because then the horse needs to learn more of the actual aids. So that question, that's rather a long response.
I love that answer, though. These are really valuable tips. I appreciate that.
It's in two parts. One, does the bit fit the horse?
Mm-hmm.
And two, does the horse understand the aids? And you may have to go back to doing some long lining or go back to lunging. Right. Does he accept contact on side reins? Not tight side reins, but just the weight. And then can he move a little bit left and right in long lines? Can you stop and start? Can you do a little bit of, I'm teaching my horse the lateral work. Mm-hmm. And I taught her in long lines, first of all, because I could say, no, just take a step, figure it out, take a step, rather than have to pull on her mouth when I'm riding her.
Right.
And you may have to change the bit depending on the discipline that you're doing. So you may be doing your flat work in one bit, or you may be then going off for a trail ride with 10 other horses and you think, I don't know how much control I have. In that moment, you're better to have a stronger bit that you don't have to pull than a really mild bit that you're pulling on the horse.
That's a good point. Yes.
So bitting is very, very challenging. It is very, very difficult for people to get the right bit. And I see so many people when I go and do clinics with either bits that do not fit or that they haven't done enough of training the horse to understand the aids.
Do you do much in-hand work as well to help them understand?
I do. I do a pile of in-hand work, and I do in-hand work their whole life.
Nice.
And I do that either lunging. I use a round pen a lot.
Okay.
And The round pen is about 30 meters, so it's much bigger than a normal round pen. So it means that if I'm doing long lining, I can do circles within the circles and changing the rein.
Right.
And I can also do some loose jumping in the round pen.
Oh, cool.
Putting over poles, because if the horse doesn't know how to jump the fence, you're not going to get it right. So teach the horse how to move first.
That's always my go-to. Like before I ever jump a horse, I want to see how you do it without me.
Yeah. And then you can use poles or different types of jumps, or two tiny jumps at 2 strides apart ones. I mean, the whole gambit of stuff you can do. But the lateral on the ground is really interesting to do. Turn the forehand, turn the haunches, leg yielding. It's beginner exercises, and then you can move on to some shoulder in and some half pass, and if you're a really smart piaffe and passage, and all sorts of stuff. But definitely I encourage people to learn how to lunge correctly and how to long line correctly.
That's so good.
Yeah. I long lined the young horse that I have now out on trails around the property, and I long lined her over a cross-country ditch.
How cool.
And I long lined her down steps, and she jumped down the steps, and I ran down and jumped off the step after her, which was awesome.
That's so cool. That's one way to keep in shape with her. Yeah.
There was a moment where I thought, don't fall over now.
Yeah. Gosh.
There's so much you can do in long lines, and it's just a lot of fun to do.
Absolutely. That reminds me, I want to do more with Pepper, because he was actually taught to drive a cart, so he's really adept at that. So
yeah, just trying some little, just stand still and see if Pepper can move sideways, and do a turn forehand and turn the haunches with the leg crossing over in front. The leg is behind you, you're wrong. So let him walk a little bit. He's not to stand still. He's
right
to
create that momentum. Yeah.
And poles on the ground. Just encourage them to flex their fetlock.
Poles.
Yeah, well, there you go.
If there are no poles in the arena, he protests.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, yeah, play around with it. Put them on a circle. Put them one side of the pole up, the next pole slanted up the other way.
Oh, yes.
Is excellent. Put them at 2 strides apart. Put them one up, one up, one flat, one up, one up, and always do multiples of odd numbers, 1, 3, 5.
Right.
But yeah, play with it. It's just a lot of fun, and it helps their flexibility, and it helps them connect their body.
I think I'll do that this weekend. You've inspired me again. It's good.
I'll throw it out to you. You send me a little video.
Okay.
You do.
Yep, I video all the time, so yeah, I'll do that.
I will throw the gauntlet down to you.
All right, I love it. Even more motivation. It's good, and my friend's coming as well, so it should work out perfect.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so let me get to the next question. Kelly wanted to know, can you talk a bit about how you coach to help riders develop their own program? And then she's got more parts to her question. And then, how long does it take to train a horse using the Spanish riding school method? I'm interested in how you apply it to your training.
Well, that's a really good question as well. When I was young, I trained with the British Olympic dressage trainer, and he had been a student at Spanish riding school, came back with 7 Lipizzaner stallions.
Wow.
And his wife rode in a couple of the Olympics, but a long time ago. And he would say it takes 5 years. However, it takes a lifetime. And some of the horses that we usually worked with Hungarian thoroughbreds, and as soon, because they're a little bit thicker bone, bigger bone than the English thoroughbred, but as soon as the horse hit a problem, remember him riding one horse, and he opened his mouth and put his tongue over the bit, and he stopped and he said, "Sell it." And I was shocked.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But now that I'm older, his goal was the Olympics. That horse was stressed. That horse was not going to be an Olympic horse. That horse needed to go to a lesser program before it got stressed. And I thought that
yes.
that was actually very, very good. Because initially I thought, how can you do that?
Yeah.
But he was in a position that that's all he wanted. Now, the majority of us do not have Olympic horses, and we have to work with what we've got. So our training program goes at the rate of the horse. So 5 years could be 10 years, could be 12 years, could be forever.
Mm-hmm.
The important thing in any training that I say to my riders is 1%.
Mm-hmm.
If you can just help your horse understand 1% more, then in 100 days,
that adds up. Yes.
It adds up. And wait for the horse to get it. You know, if you were teaching me, and, you know, I've gone and had golf lessons or other types of sport lessons, and as a trainer, I'm so busy analyzing the trainer. And in golf, like, hold your hands here, do this, now lift your elbow, no, keep your shoulder here, now lift your head. And I'm overloaded. So I achieve nothing except get frustrated because I can't do it.
Right.
So as a trainer, we need to be kind to ourselves. Mm-hmm. And riding, I think, for the horse or the rider goes up in steps. I get something new, but I need to learn it. I get something new, I need to learn it. It's not a continuous up, 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 up. Mm-hmm. Or if you do that, you go up, 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 crash. Yes. And the horse or rider gets a fright, gets stressed, and sometimes you can't undo that. So have your classic training scale, have your classic. For me, the Spanish riding school system is a really good system. I like the system of position. I like the position of aid, but relate it to your horse, because he or she has no idea that you want to be whatever it is that you want to be. You know, just find what they want to do and what they're good at, and you'll have a lot of fun. You may have to adapt your goal a little bit with that specific course, but that's the learning, that's the excitement, that's the whole thing of it.
Yes, and it's so wonderful to explore what they enjoy, and they will show you.
Oh, totally.
Yes.
Totally. Yeah, totally. It's like, I'm not doing 5 circles. No, thank you. But I might jump this fence. This is more exciting.
Yes.
It's keeping some variety, you know, like you were saying, mm-hmm. Pepper is not happy with you when you don't have poles in the arena.
Right. He loves going out in the woods and coming back, and then he's energized. And if I have a little crossrail set up, he pulls me towards it, even if we haven't warmed up properly. I'm like, we need to wait. So, but you can tell he really enjoys it. So
yeah. And you can use the jump to help him improve his self-carriage and therefore last longer.
That's true.
That's, you know, it's the longevity that we want with our horses, because we spend a lot of time training them. So isn't it a shame that they're done when they're 15? Oh, I need a new horse. It's like,
yeah, that's a sad thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. No, I'm very appreciative of doing my best to change things up. And, you know, I learned that's why they created eventing, is all the different disciplines create your amazing athletic horse.
Yeah, that really came through the army and that discipline. And I think the eventing people are great because, excuse me, you have 3 chances to mess up. And therefore, you can be very humbled
Yes,
It-
I remember my one and only event. I was at top in dressage. I went clear in stadium, so if I had went clear in cross country, I would have won. But I just got a little nervous and did a circle. It was cause, of
yeah,
course, counted as a refusal, so I got sixth. But I was like, "Hey, I did it!" I was just so proud of myself.
no, it's just
Yep,
we need to we just go with our horses. We need to go
exactly.
with it. Yeah,
And
definitely.
it's amazing what they do for us. I mean, that's something I think about every day. I'm always in awe that they let us even sit on them. You know. Yeah.
Completely, and then ask them to go, round and round in circles and do the same sort of thing
Mm-hmm.
with our bodies, because our bodies aren't always in balance, and we might be a bit stiff or bounce on their back or, sit off to one side. I mean, none of us are perfect,
Yeah.
but yet our horses very much try to accommodate us. And that's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a huge gift.
Yeah.
Okay,
You
so we're
see,
gonna. Oh, go ahead.
you see it very much with therapeutic ponies.
Hmm,
And they are special. They are just amazing. Yeah.
they truly are.
Yeah.
So Jana wanted to know. She has several questions, so I'll just go one at a time. I think. How do you go about choosing which bit is best? Is there a criteria or list, or is it required that each bit be tried while riding? What sort of guidelines could someone follow if they're unable to have access to a bit fitter and don't have access to several bits to try? I know a lot of us have invested in many bits in an effort to figure out what is best. So, simply, what are some guidelines for us who are on our own? It's difficult to find clear articles.
Right. So many of the articles are written by the bit manufacturers, and they
Right.
say the Mylar bits are the best, or the new Schuler bits are the best, or a copper bit is the best, or this bit is the best. And I always say we all have a bucket full of bits.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy to let people try bits. But when I go to a clinic, I often find people are in the wrong size bit.
Mm.
So the first thing for her to do is to check inside her horse's mouth.
Right.
Have you had a regular dentist, a horse dentist? Are the teeth okay? Are the gums okay? Are the inside of the mouth okay? What is the whole shape of the horse's mouth? And then we have our own preferences. And I personally like the double link bits, like the French link bits of some kind, either the lozenge or whatever.
Right.
And because I think it gives me a little bit more flexibility in the horse's mouth.
Mm.
I've used some of the more expensive bits, the Mylar bits, the new Schuler, but they're $130, $40 for a
Right.
bit that may or may not fit your horse. So I would recommend starting with either a regular egg butt French link or a loose ring French link, and consider the thickness of the bit, because the thicker the bit is not necessarily the milder, depends on the shape of the horse's mouth. Remember that your loose ring should be slightly bigger than your egg butt,
That way it
because
doesn't pinch, right?
it doesn't pinch the side. So run the ring around and make sure it's not pinching, especially if they have very tender, soft, thick. So it really depends a lot on the actual horse. Going for copper mouth, going for anything. I would just start off with a regular, and if she starts to have problems, check the horse's teeth first of all,
Right.
and ask a friend if they can borrow a bit from them. Don't go out and buy another bit, because
Right.
we all have enough people that can help us and say, well, try this bit, try that bit. And then, as I was saying with your question earlier, once the horse is comfortable with the bit, then it's a question of the training and the aids. Do they actually understand? So go back to doing some groundwork with the horse. Can you stop, start, turn left, turn right, go for a trail ride? When I first started in a double bridle with horses, I just go trail ride. So they're just carrying two bits in their mouth.
That's so smart. I love
And
that.
just go for a trail ride. It doesn't make, you don't have to go right away into schooling in the ring and then feel frustrated. And each article will say something else. This is the perfect bit for your horse. There's no perfect one size fits all. So that's why I was quite keen to do this chat with you, because it's interesting. A bit that I've had a lot of success with recently is the hanging snaffle, the boucher.
Oh yes, I used to use one on my little Arabian.
Right, and it's, a lot of people think it creates more pole pressure, but it doesn't, because it's the ring that the cheek piece is on is different to the ring on the bit.
Right.
But a horse that likes the egg butt, and you need just a little bit more of a different action, then it might be a bit to borrow from a friend. Because you look at all the different pressure points on a bit, and just give it a try. So don't go out and buy anything. Don't listen to what the person in the shop is trying to sell you. Ask your horse and then borrow from a friend.
And this is an animal communicator, so she's very good about asking her horse, and they'll tell her. So,
and you can hold the bit right there in front, and the horse will say absolutely not. Yeah. So walk away from that bit.
That reminds me of the one time I tried a Micklem without the bit, and I put it on Pepper, and he just started tossing his head. Give me my bit back.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, we're going back to your bridle. And then he was fine.
Right.
He was very clear.
But what was nice there is you asked the question and you honored him.
Yes. Yeah, I wasn't going to torture him. Yeah.
And if they're still in the mouth, when you go through the classic training scale, relaxation, rhythm, contact is really a hard one, because it's divided into, firstly, you take contact from the horse. Does the horse accept you taking whatever ounces or whatever weight he needs at that moment? And then there's a gap before the horse takes the rein from you. And understanding the concept of taking the rein is a feel thing, because it's not heavy on the rein, and it's not sitting behind the rein in a pretty form. It's lifting up through the back and connecting, and almost like a dance, holding your hand, having enough in your hand to guide you in the dance, but not drag you around the dance floor.
It's a beautiful feeling when it comes together like that.
Oh yes, it's what keeps us all going. And it's when you feel that, and you then put your leg on, and the horse can move really through his back. It's lovely, and that's what's going to keep a horse going for a long, long time. So that's where our longevity comes in.
That's so true, because then they're moving properly, and just as if you were bringing someone to the gym, you want to make sure they're setting themselves up for success and not going to injure themselves. So.
Absolutely. And many horses can go into their 30s if life has if they've got good conformation and life has been good to them.
Yes. Totally. Oh, so there's one last piece to her question. She wanted to know the true purpose of a curb bit.
The curb bit, if we're talking about it with the double bridle, the curb bit is to lower the head. But what the difference with the curb bit is, because you have a curb chain, when you use the rein, then you have an action on the curb groove as well as on the pole. But the thing about a curb bit, two things are, one, the thumb piece should be really short, because the longer the thumb piece, the more angle there is. And the curb chain should be tight enough, because if you have a really loose curb chain, the action doesn't happen till you've used a lot, and the bit then is twisted around in the horse's mouth.
Right, that's no fun.
So I encourage people to make sure they have a double link chain on the curb chain, and as short a thumb piece as is comfortable as you can possibly buy. And the double bridles that I've used, I've actually gone for an egg butt rather than a loose ring as well. So they're a little harder to find, but they're more comfortable in the majority of horses' mouths, provided they're not too thick.
Okay.
A very thin bradoon, and then a curved bit with a loose curb chain is very, very uncomfortable. So basically the curb lowers the horse's head and neck, but the answer is in how you ride it rather than in the bit.
It's always up to the human's hands once it's fit properly.
Right. Somebody once said to me that you should think of the rein as being the emergency brake. The slowing down the transitions should be ridden with your seat and legs. And then the rein. The rein should not be the first thing to go to. And I thought that was a really good way of saying. And you can practice that walk to halt using your weight aids. Walk on the arc of a very small circle, slow your body down, and don't use your rein. And then try trot to walk. Try it from canter to trot. Sit a little taller, slow your body down a little bit. You know, as we learn more and more of our seat aids, we're relying less and less on our reins and hands.
Absolutely. I love doing that too.
Yeah.
And then they become lighter. And that's something I've told my students, especially in the beginning, like I wouldn't even let them have their reins. They'd be on a lunge line and hold a grab strap just to get their balance, you know.
Yeah.
And then when they were allowed to hold the reins to just begin walking and steering a little bit, I'd say, okay, use your body first, and then your reins are the bonus.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the more we work on our own position, the easier it is for the horse to carry us, and therefore the problems there are in the mouth. Because, you know, with any bitting problem, you need to go back and say, well, why is this a problem? Mm-hmm. You know, am I overfeeding my horse that he's just fresh? Right? Is he in a situation that he doesn't feel comfortable and he doesn't trust, and therefore his natural instinct is to leave? Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter what bit you're in, you are leaving at that stage. Take that step back and work out what is going wrong. Does he need another horse beside him in the ring to become more confident so he can then listen to the rider? Right, so always taking these steps back and thinking, all right, what else do I need to do here to educate my horse?
It's always good to take steps back. I love that.
Yeah, because you're consolidating your base. You know, and if you go to a lot of trainers, the clinicians, they're not working on the fancy things. They're working on improving the basics.
Yes.
Improving the rhythm or adding a little bit more impulsion. And how does the horse react when I do that? Does he become heavy in the forehand? Why is he heavy? And you may have to change bits, or you may not, but it depends on getting a bit that fits the horse and then educating the horse to understand what rein aids are.
Yes, I love it. Thank you for that, Jane.
Oh, you're so welcome. So it's so nice to talk about. It's something that's very close to my heart. The getting a rider connecting more and more with their horse and understanding more and more of what they need to do to improve their horse. Yes. And understanding, is that horse an aggressive horse? Is he a leader? Is he timid? Does he, you know, what does he want you? How does he want you to be? Right. So that he can follow you as the leader.
And it takes a lot to get quiet enough to notice that.
Takes a lifetime.
Yep.
It takes a lifetime, but that's why we're still doing it. You know?
Absolutely.
We would have, you know, done it and stopped when we were 18 and, you know, got bored with it.
Yeah. Never boring.
Love it. I just love it. Yeah.
So I've got a couple more here. Is there anything else that you'd like to share that I didn't ask you?
I think no. I think you were great. I think it's just reiterating, when we're talking about bitting, don't go to a bit fitter, because they might be just selling one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Find the bits that your horse likes, and then if you want a bit fitter, or your trainer to come along and give their input. But it's the horse that tells you, and be prepared to change. It might be that, I always use X bit. Well, maybe that horse doesn't like X bit. Maybe, so do check inside their mouth. If you do try a new bit, go for a trail ride with it to start off with. If you need a stronger bit, I have a horse competing this weekend, and he needs a stronger bit jumping.
Mm-hmm.
But all we did was put the bit on him today, because he hasn't been in it for 5 months, and went for a trail ride. Just even if it's a bit that they're used, just let them understand, let them get used to whatever it is that you either require to be safer. There's nothing wrong in a stronger bit. There's a lot wrong with stronger hands.
That's a really good point. And it also makes me feel good about the decision we used to make when I'd take the kids to shows. We'd switch my little Arab from the egg butt to a Kimberwick. And it was so much better for everybody. Yep.
Well, better for the horse as well.
Yeah.
Because somebody wasn't holding him back.
Well, I mean, everybody, including the horse, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then he can get more comfortable, and it's fine. So make sure you have the bit that's allowable for that competition. But, one bit does not fit all. So your hunters and your D-snaffle, they don't all like it. Just
right.
Be aware of what your horse is saying to you. Learn the language of equus.
I love that. I'd almost wonder if that would be something you'd want to write on a billboard for the whole horse world to see, or some version of that.
Definitely. Learn the language of equus. Take ownership of the fact you are the leader, and take 1%, 1% for yourself or the horse. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to your horse, because they're trying their best.
I love that. Thank you, Jane. This was wonderful.
You're welcome. It was fun talking with you.
You too. And how can people get a hold of you if they'd like to work with you?
They can contact me through Facebook.
Okay.
And it's I think you already sent that link through. And I post things about some of the horses that I'm working with. Some I don't, but some if people are happy, I spend the afternoon doing video evals for people.
Nice.
So text questions are free. Excuse me. Videos I have a charge for, but if somebody has a question after today about their bit or their horse, send the question, and I will answer it within 24 hours free of charge.
Well, thank you very much. Really appreciate that.
All right. So
I'll put all your info on the notes so people will be able to find you. So.
Perfect. Well, happy riding, everybody, and I will see your trot pole exercise at the weekend, Beth.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks everyone for watching, and remember to lead with kindness for yourself and for your horse, and may the horse be with you always.